To celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Ekosystem and the 40th anniversary of the Atari ST, let me tell you the story of Echo. How did everything begin? Back in September 1991, I met Max out at the university. He was already into the Atari ST demoscene and more particularly into the cracking scene. He was a member of Mad Vision and the Replicants with his friend Def KLF. Def KLF is the guy who found the name Echo. He is a street artist. He wanted something short and fast to draw. These three letters can stand for two things: extremely creative organization or extremely criminal organization. A kind of tribute to the golden cracking years. In January 1992, Max out released his last Atari ST demo with Mad Vision, called Massive Attack, with another friend, Vishnu, who will also later participate in Echo demos as a designer. Mad Vision was productive from 1990 to February 1993. On my side, I was making music on my Atari ST with Soundtracker and later used ProTracker. In 1992, Max out and I became very close, and we spent most of our time watching demos. We were also spending nights and money chatting on Artel in some demoscene-related channels. We were also patiently waiting for the postman to deliver the floppy disks we were swapping with some other guys abroad. Yeah, at that time, the internet did not exist yet. The Atari Messe. The 21st of August, 1992 in Düsseldorf, Atari announced at the Atari Messe that they were about to release a brand new computer, the Falcon 030. The specifications of this new computer were incredible. The Atari ST demoscene was overjoyed, but unfortunately Atari did not mention any specific issue date for the European market. To our surprise, the 3D demo by Eclipse Software was released during this event. I still don't understand how they got a Falcon before everyone. If someone knows, I'm really curious. In the following years, Eclipse Software released games like Iron Soldier, Lethal Excess, or Stone Age. How did we get our Falcon? In April 1993, after a long period of silence, the Atari Falcon was available in France. Why did it take so much time? Well, mainly because Atari sold off its factories and assembly lines, but they also decided to focus on the Jaguar. At that time, the price of a Falcon in France was really huge. The initial price was around 1,200 euros, without a screen nor a hard disk. The Pro version was around 2,400 euros. This version included 4 megabytes of RAM, a 65 megabytes hard disk, and a screen. Yes, indeed, it was a shock. We were students, and we could not afford a computer that expensive. So Max out had an idea. Why not directly ask Atari to help us? In return, we will offer them our services. We then contacted Atari France and had a meeting in Paris with 2 Atari representatives. The challenge here was to convince those 2 guys to sell us a Falcon at an attractive price. How did we do that? We came with an Archimedes 410, on which a friend coded a mapped cube. We argued that we could do exactly the same on Falcon. To our surprise, they agreed, but we had to pay the full price. We then came back home with a Falcon, a development kit, and a white Jaguar power pad. This one was free. However, after a few tests, it appeared that the DSP was buggy on the very early versions of the Falcon, and it was impossible to compile without generating an error. We then came back to Atari to replace it for another Falcon. Unfortunately, this is how, from the Falcon number 42, we came out with big number. As far as I remember, we never really fulfilled the contract with Atari France, as they were in a really difficult situation and were slowly dying. Finally, Atari France closed its offices in February 1994. Okay, now let's talk about demos. The very first intro Max out worked on was the Cool demo. The main and only effect was a huge amount of shade bobs. Unfortunately, I could not find a video of it. If someone knows where I can get it. In August 1993, Echo organized with Eagles the First Place to Be party. This is where Max out and Major X met for the very first time. During this party, we presented another intro called Echo Demo, or 6,000 dots. Max out wanted to make sure that the DSP was as powerful as Atari had stated by pushing it to its limits. The challenge here was to show 6,000 real-time 3-axis rotating dots, while keeping a good frame rate. To save some power for the CPU, the music was a sample called Sowing the Seed by Ryuichi Sakamoto from the movie Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. You may notice that at this moment we were still not releasing our demos under Eko's nickname. This came out a little later. As a side project, Major X also formed another group called WEG, Wotanist Extremist Group. They released several demos and some games. In winter '93, we attended the Intermedia near Paris, where we presented a very early version of the Papa Was a Blade Runner. This demo ranked number 1 in the Falcon competition. The final version was released in January 1994. The Intermedia was also the place where Maxout met Nop, who contributed later to the RU Experience demo. For the Papa Was a Blade Runner, we had a lot of positive articles in many French newspapers and even in Germany. As for the 6000 Dots intro, we used a sample called Little Fluffy Clouds from The Orb. Most of the time, playing samples was really power-saving for the main processor. In fact, at that time, the module's replay routines were not really efficient. In December '93, Eko issued its very first disc mag called How to Code, in which you may find some coding tips, some technical hints, hardware explanations, and so on. This edition was coded by Ayoros. In April 1994, we released the second edition of How to Code, all coded by Rusty, who was the swapper of the group. In June 1994, Major X started working on a new effect called Mars DSP, which is basically a voxel. This effect was planned for the RU Experienced demo. Unfortunately, Major X sent this effect to a friend who released it a little bit too early. This effect will also be included later in the Maggie 19 disc mag in August 1996. From the 26th to the 29th of August 1994, Eagles, Eko and Impact organized the second edition of the Place to Be Again demo party. During this party, we released the RU Experienced, which ranked number 1 ex aequo with Experience from Abstract. Yes, there was a lot of experience in the names. On our side, we chose that name for the admiration that we had for Jimi Hendrix. Commodore Amiga demosceners may find some similarities with another demo from Ivory Last Experience. Yeah, another experience. The reason is that the main coder, JGL and Maxout, were friends, and they just made the same effects on both machines. There's another funny backstory related to the RU Experienced demo. Nitric from Hydroxid was so fascinated by Eko that he sent an Eko logo with the secret wish to be included in the demo. In the end, Maxout erased most of the picture and just kept the daemon for the mapped cube sequence. One more time. For this effect, we used a sample from The Orb called Euphorb. Do you remember this? Abstract made fun of Eko and Maxout in particular in their demo Experience. You want to know why? Well, just ask me and I'll tell you. If you are waiting for the greetings at the end of the RU Experienced, you may notice that Eko promoted Moonspeeder, a game which I made the music for. Moonspeeder is a 3D racing game coded by Crack. It was distributed by Compuscan in France in December 1994 for around €95. The sequel, Moon Games, was released for free in summer 1996. Basically, this second version is an optimized version of the first one. The game was innovative in many ways. Moonspeeder is using both Falcon processors in parallel to display true colors, mix sounds and music, display textures, and handle transparency and shading in real time. For this game, I made the music on Amiga 1200 that I just bought from JGL Ivory. I know what you are thinking, but I swear, I did not betray the Atari ST community. In October 1994, Eko went to Germany to attend the Siliconvention party, organized by Avena. We were just there to have some good time with these very talented German groups like Avena, Aura, Inter, Cream, and some other ones. However, we were interviewed by Agent T. We mostly discussed about H2O and Major X about Watanoid, an asteroid clone he was working on. In the end, we had a very good paper in ST Computer in January 1995. On the way back from Germany, we stopped in Amsterdam. I can't talk about it, but we had a very, chaotic evening. On December 1994, Eko released the Epidemic music disc, a compilation of musics from famous musicians like Basshead, Melody, Necros, Mosaic, Purple Motion, Skaven, and some other ones. The funny thing is that this music disc was so buggy that 23 years later, the group Debug released at the Summer Hack 2017 a demo to fix it. The two Atari representatives who were fired from Atari France in early 1994 set up a new company, Compuscan, and they decided to organize their own Atari show. This event happened in Paris in December 1994, and it was a nightmare. The room was so small, it was really hot and crowded. This event attended double the number of people expected. A huge success, in terrible conditions. The 24th of April, 1995, the third version of How to Code was released. In April 1995, a lot of people attended the Friedbits in Germany. We presented the Ekosystem, which ranked number 2 just behind the Lost Blub from Laser. We raised the bar for this demo at different levels: Z-buffer, garage shading, fast 3D worlds. The race circuit in this demo was inspired by the coin-op game Virtua Racing. For the end greetings part, all the objects were made using persistence of vision, a 3D software. The Guro shading was made in scanlines. In this demo, the DSP was fully dedicated to the 3D engine. The challenge was also to sync up the tracking music and the effects, as there was no real documentation about this. In the end, Max Out got the full soundtracker code. He spent some time optimizing the resampling and the mixing loops for the Motorola 68030. The music was made with ProTracker 315 on an Amiga 1200. All the samples are homemade and were sampled from the Roland E15. No secret here, I was really inspired by Moby's excellent work he made on the Arte. In August 1995, Echo, Hemorrhoids, and Exa all collaborated to make the Geranium demo, which ranked number 1 at the Gatsby party. The picture from Nico was originally used in the good old Place to Be Again invitation. April 1996 is maybe the last contribution of Eco to a production. I participated in the Entracti demo from Exa, which ranked number 1 at the Gigafun party. From the 15th to the 19th of February 1997. Echo organized his last demo party in Amiens, which was quite successful. Okay, now, let's talk about H2O. H2O is an action and puzzle game about water. Drops of water fall from the top of a scrolling playfield. You must drive these drops into a drain pipe at the bottom of the screen by throwing up blocks to stop the flow of water, building bridges to retain the water, or throwing bombs to blast obstacles. The development began in late 1993, following the arrival of the Falcon on the French market. We were a few to participate in the development: Max Out, Def KLF, Vishnu, JG Theris, Flanker and I. Flanker has drawn the very last screen where a code is displayed, giving access to all the levels. Contrary to what everyone thinks, the game was not inspired by Lemmings, but from another game released on Archimedes in 1991, Cataclysm. We faced a lot of difficulties to market the game. It was supposed to be published by Frontier Software, but it never happened. We also presented it to Atari, who suggested the name H2O, but they did not follow as well. Furthermore, a pirate version had been distributed by someone who made a copy of the game in a demo party. Hey dude, tell us who you are. Anyway, the final, patched, fixed, and fully functional version was released for free in 2005. This game received very positive reviews in many magazines. This game was later developed for DOS in 1996, published by Webfoot Technologies, and another for Windows in July 2009, H2O Remix, published by TLK Games. The funny thing is that Max Out and JGL, who was in charge of the never-released Amiga version, became very good fellows, and later started their own company, Echo Software. They then decided to convert H2O for PSP, Nintendo DS and Wii, PS3, and even on Windows, Mac, and Linux under the name Aquapanic. Some of you may have heard about it. Echo was working on a new 3D engine. It was supposed to be used in the very last Echo's demo. Some effects were interesting and very innovative. The code is still sleeping on Max Out Falcon. Who knows? Maybe one day Echo will release it. Year 1997 marked the end of Echo. All of us went in different directions. A lot of Atari demo makers left the Atari scene to move to the Amiga or the PC. Furthermore, many of us have started our professional careers or continued our studies in other places. In the mid-90s, Echo worked on a game called Gift. The music was made by Philippe Ulrich. They first approached Team 17 in the UK, but the negotiations failed. It was finally released in 2000 by Cryo Interactive. Echo was interviewed by Sfmx for the SMAG-FX4, released in December 2021. In this disc mag, Sfmx recreated the Papa was a bladerunner mapped cube on an Atari ST. It was really surprising. When you think that in 1993 we struggled to make it work on Falcon, and now it works on a STE. Thank you for watching this long video, but I wanted to be as exhaustive as possible. Personally, I feel like I've lived the golden age of personal computing in the 1632-bit era. From a personal point of view, these years have been truly extraordinary. I've learned a lot, and I met very talented and kind people. It was so refreshing and inspiring to talk with guys from different groups and from different countries, driven by the same passion. Pushing the boundaries. I want to specially thank Marco Bredin for providing me some of the pictures you've seen in this video. He's also the guy behind Return of the Borders. This book dives into the Atari Golden Era. Marco focuses on the demo scene and how it had an influence in the gaming industry. You may find in this book tons of demos showcased along the pages. If you want to know more on the Atari demo scene, that's definitely the Bible you may need. Thanks a lot, and see you soon.